Welcome back to Forward Progress, presented by FanDuel. We are back, and we're taking a look at the AFC North. We're going to do a little preview, our last preview of the offseason, I guess. If you had a favorite one, drop it down in the comment section down below, or if you haven't seen them all, go back, watch them, come back to this video, and let us know who you think is going to be primed to win the AFC North. Let's not dilly-dally. Let's get right into things. I'm going to pull up the odds boards. Odds-on favorite right now to win the AFC North is, of course, the Baltimore Ravens, priced at minus 145. And we'll start right there. Baltimore Ravens, that offense will always be humming as long as Lamar Jackson is healthy and their quarterback. They made a couple adds. They added DeAndre Hopkins. Looks to be a little bit stronger now, but my question is going to more so be about the defense. Last year, they started out a little bit weak. First 9 games, they were the 6th worst team in terms of EPA per dropback. But then if you look at the second half of the season, things completely flipped there. They were the 3rd best team in terms of EPA per dropback. Of course, that could just be noise, but that could also be signaling of Zach Orr maybe finding his footing as a defensive coordinator in the NFL. So my question is here at minus 145, price to win the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens. Can Zach Orr potentially continue that success into this year? And is the ceiling maybe higher than what we saw last year for the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, I think there's probably like elements of truth to Zach Orr kind of finding his path. I don't think it hurts that the Ravens basically didn't play a good quarterback in that stretch. If you go back, you'll see the list of opposing quarterbacks was as friendly as it can possibly be. But that still could, right? Like 2 things can exist at once, and Zach Orr could be, getting stronger as a coordinator, and more so, I think it's a matter of like the players getting more comfortable in scheme and knowing the system. And this is actually something that's been observed certainly from the Ravens. I mean, Mike McDonald was the perfect example actually of this. I don't know if the upside is higher only because it's easy to say all the good things are going to sustain itself year over year, as our good friend Dr. Eric Eager would always mention. Like you basically bake on the bad things regressing positively and not so the good stuff. And the Ravens offense was insanely good last year by anyone's standards. And that isn't to say that they can't sustain that level of performance, but even relative to how good they are, it was still probably a higher percentile outcome season than is their true talent, just because of how much of an outlier they were. If you look at basically any offensive category, they were by far the best in the NFL. So that just is like by way of injury, by way of just like things that can happen in the NFL. I don't expect that to continue, at least to the degree, that it was last year. But yeah, the defense could I think be a little bit closer to the second half than the first half. So I'm not sure they're a top 5 defense, and on paper, I don't think they are. They're still lacking basically any talent at edge, and I think are relying on a lot of kind of scheme pressure to generate any sort of pass rush. But Kyle Hamilton is elite at safety, and I think that especially the way they deploy him kind of allows for a lot of different uses and versatile defenses. But at the end of the day, Zay Flowers has seemingly emerged as a great receiver, and Rashad Bateman, there have been talks about him. He has had terrific underlying numbers for so long, and he seemingly put that actually into production rather than just some underlying numbers. This is going to be a good offense. Lamar Jackson's an elite quarterback. They have some good weapons, and Jackson and Henry are as good as it's going to be at quarterback and running back. So the floor is very high for this team. I think in order to sort of capture that ceiling, you're banking on the defense to repeat its second half success, which I'm not so sold on, and the offense to, even if they're amazing, it's still a step back from where they were last year. So honestly, at minus 145, that's decently priced in already. But I think this is a team with a decent, actually wide range of outcomes, even with a high floor.
Yeah, for sure. Right now, their win total is priced at 11.5, minus 110, both sides. If you're looking for them to have a crazy year, that 15.5 for them to get 16 plus wins, 13-1 over at FanDuel. I'm curious to hear everyone's thoughts though in the comment section down below, specifically about the Ravens. If you have any thoughts on if their upside is there, maybe their defense can get better, or if Judah's right about it, where Not only the good things could regress as much as bad things can regress, which just seems like I get stuck on and not I don't think about that too much. Anyways, let's move on to the next team here. I've been kind of switching things up. I go from the top of the board to the bottom of the board. Now we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns, who are a gross 20-1 to win the division. I mean, by far the worst team in the division, one of the worst teams in football right now, being priced as such. But to be fair, to give them a little bit of credit, they did improve a little bit at quarterback, like Flacco to Jameis Winston to Flacco is like at least something. They still have a very stingy defense, obviously with Myles Garrett. Do they have like, I'm going to say the word floor, but I don't mean like a floor, a high floor. They still have I'm curious to hear if you believe they have a decent floor to be like a 5-win team with the way that this team is built. Listen, a low floor, a stingy floor, a frisky floor, but is the floor there for this team?
No, at least I get the language you're talking, right? Like, I think the
Yeah.
Giants are a team with a much higher floor that's in a somewhat
Mm-hmm.
similar circumstance. Also, completely reject that Joe Flacco is like an upgrade over Jameis Winston. I do not think that's true at all. We're talking about like a 90-year-old quarterback who's hasn't really been. He had a little nice stretch there with Cleveland, but over the full season of play has not sustained
Mm-hmm.
success in any way. And I don't even know if he's starting. I think that's like to be determined, even if he is still the likeliest. I mean, the rest of the team is dreadful. Sure, like Myles Garrett, elite player, and that's going to elevate the like pass rush, but there are just massive holes cornerback. Like David Emerson was one of the worst quarterbacks. Martin Emerson was one of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL last year. The offensive line's a disaster. They don't really have much of a skill position group outside of Jerry Judy, who even still is not exactly your idea of a number one NFL receiver, even if he's still a good player. And like, where's their run game coming from? They were a disaster last season. Chubb is gone. You're relying on like a second round pick rookie behind a pretty bad offensive line with a quarterback who poses absolutely zero threat to run the ball. And I think like there's only so much they can do with this team on paper. I'm as down on them as the market is. I do not think this is a team with a high floor. I think this is one of the worst teams in the NFL, certainly on the offensive side.
All right, fair enough. Win total right now is priced between 5.5 and 3.5 wins. Right now, their 5.5 wins is juiced towards the under -145. Before we get into the next two teams, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors over at FanDuel. It might be the offseason, but if you want to bet on NFL futures, FanDuel is the place to go for that action. They have tons of futures available, including player award props, team futures, win totals, including alts that you can all parlay together. The excitement for something new is live right now at FanDuel. Just visit fanduel.com/forward progress to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's fanduel.com/forward progress. All right, up next we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The biggest news for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It took a really long time to come out, but he finally did it. Aaron Rodgers signed with the Steelers. Like, seems like we all knew that was going to happen. Dragged out way too long. Anyways, other than that, some lateral moves they made. They made that big trade, swapping Minka Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. They moved out George Pickens for DK Metcalf. Feels like some lateral moves going on here, but this team is really shaping up and going all in to be another 8-9, 9-8 win team. I mean, what should I be excited about here? Is there any chance we see anything differently from the Steelers, or are they honed right in on that 8-9 wins right now, the way that they're going?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really depends on Aaron Rodgers. And like the case against Aaron Rodgers, I think is pretty obvious, which is like he's old. He hasn't really been his last good season was kind of 3.5 years ago. Or I guess he had a good second half before leaving to second half of the season before leaving to the Jets. It's like if he finds that form, again, a huge if. Like, yes, I think they can be better than 8-9 wins. And you can say like, okay, he's also like coming off an Achilles injury. His like meh production last season, like might actually be better a second year off an injury. Again, you can have the counter argument of like, yeah, but he's 90 years old. Like that's also obviously very relevant. Yeah, I think they are like an extremely high floor team. This pass rush is insane and unbelievably deep. I mean, TJ Watt was dealing with a lot of injuries last season. Obviously, an incredible pass rusher. I think one that even breaks some of the molds of what we know about pass rush. Like the manner he has a forced fumble rate on his sacks just way higher than any other player. in the NFL, and I don't think that's a coincidence. And just like the on-off splits, generally noisy, but for the Steelers and TJ Watt now for years has been very sticky. And then like Alex Highsmith on the other side obviously helps to have TJ Watt. And then you've got like depth. Nick Herbig was insane last season coming in. Like Keanu Benton was great. They are just like, I mean, Cameron Hayward is still doing it. He's PFF's like second graded defensive lineman, I believe. Like this defense is awesome. I do actually, I would agree with you in many senses. There are some lateral moves. I do think that Joey Porter, that Jalen Ramsey presents a pretty big upgrade over Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, they don't even play the same. I mean, they were playing different positions, but at least relative to the secondary, like Jalen Ramsey was still really good. He was still like 80th plus percentile, both in like separation prevented and his play on ball. Like he is still a terrific cornerback. And I think that like in the secondary, especially for the Steelers, they were just like lots of weak links. Joey Porter, I think a lot better than his separation numbers are certainly pretty good. And like the fewer plays you have of weak links, the better you're going to be. I think this is going to be a very good defense and one that projects very well on paper. It just has the same obvious concerns as last season, which is like who's getting the ball outside of, now it's not George Pickens, it's DK Metcalf. Like Robert Woods is your number two or the guy starting at your left wide receiver. Calvin Austin's tiny. He's kind of limited in the slot there. Is not a particularly great offensive line. Like sure they've got some. Maybe they're going to go with a lot of 2 tight end sets and use that, but there are some limitations to running your offense that way in 2025. So all that's a long-winded way of saying like, yeah, I think they're a pretty high floor team. This is a defense that should be good. And like, is it possible that Aaron Rodgers is way worse than the quarterback play they've gotten? I don't think so. Is it possible it's way better? I also don't think so. And that kind of leaves us in this classic Steelers range. But there's something that feels different. If you take off the data on the analytics side, it's a different story when it's not Kenny Pickett, when it's not Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, and instead it's like a guy who has had a resurgence before. Aaron Rodgers like went from being a kind of like good quarterback to like the NFL MVP in back-to-back seasons. And there's like maybe something to be said, even if it's just kind of a small piece.
Just have to wonder what the effects of ayahuasca has to do with that. But who knows? We'll see. If Arthur Smith can cook, I mean, he got his guy. He got his Jonnu Smith. We'll see what he can cook up with him. And then also one more thing, the verbal memes. We love to do it on this channel. TJ Watt on the outskirts gets sacks. Guy in the middle, midwit meme. Pressures are the most important stat for defensive edge. That's actually it right there. Anyways, let's move on to the last team here and get you out. We got the Cincinnati Bengals. Biggest news for them this offseason, they kept their guys together. Incredibly important for them. Higgins signed, Chase signed. They have their trio on offense with Higgins, Chase, and Joe Burrow. My concern with them is their defense. Recent draft pick Shamar Stewart holding out. Trey Hendrickson seems like he's going to hold out. Listen, we're not going to go too in depth on contracts or what they're going to do, what would happen, and what they would need to do to fix this situation. But we're a few weeks away from training camp. It seems as though the holdup might be very real. This defensive line is already very thin. So like their win total right now is 9.5 towards over -120. Could you see this affecting their win total and affecting their team play heading into the season if both these guys end up holding out?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. This is like they drafted Stewart for a reason, and that's like they have zero depth behind Trey Hendrickson. And Trey Hendrickson was like, this was a bad pass rush last season, and Trey Hendrickson had one of the best, if not the best, statistical season at edge, which is even more impressive considering the number of double teams he was facing. Like, yeah, they need these guys badly, and this dare I say is the worst defense in the NFL on paper. Without those guys. Yeah. Do I anticipate them playing? Yes, these things tend to work themselves out, but I'm not an insider. I obviously don't have a ton of information here. They desperately need those guys. And even if they are both playing, this is still looking like a very iffy defense. And that was the problem last season. And they're basically saying, let's run it back. And I think like we've seen the range of outcomes for the Bengals, right? We've seen them like even with, I mean, the defense was a little bit better a couple of years ago than they were this past season. But like the range of outcomes with Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase is going to be a team that like can reach the Super Bowl. That is in the range of possibilities. It is also in the range of possibilities that the Bengals can miss the playoffs for a third straight season. I think both of those things are true. We've got a small sample of 17 games. The Bengals are, I think, one of the more known teams certainly on the offensive side of the ball of what we're going to get. It's really a question of like, is this defense going to be as bad as they were last year? Are they going to improve a little bit? And that I think is going to go a long way in where the Bengals finish this season.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the floor is there when you have an incredible quarterback, 2 great wide receivers. It's just if those guys hold out, this is going to be a team to watch simply because like I want them on at 1 p.m. on Sundays. There's gonna be a lot of points scored, a lot of fun, a lot of fun for those fantasy DFS freaks. Should be interesting to see, something to keep an eye on throughout the offseason. Judah, before we head out, 2 questions I ask at the end of every single one of these division previews. Give me the team that you feel like has the widest range of outcomes. We can throw out the Pittsburgh Steelers. So between the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, Cleveland Browns, who do you feel like has the widest?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals, given my last sentence of a team that can miss the playoffs or go to the Super Bowl. That seems like a pretty wide range of outcomes.
Fair enough. All right. And then last thing here, the exact finishing order for the AFC North. Excuse me. Give it to me right now.
I'm right with the market here. Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns.
Love it. Love it. Plus 320 right now on FanDuel. If you agree with Judah, you can go bet it over there. And that wraps it up for us here today, guys. If you enjoyed the comment, smash that like button. It goes a long way for us in the algorithm. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button as well. Drop a comment down below if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, if you think Aaron Rodgers is cooked or not. I want to hear your thoughts. We love interacting with you guys in the comment section. Then finally, one more thing before we head out. We have a Q&A coming up. So please, I'm going to drop a link in the comment section down below. Click on it. Ask any questions you want. Nothing's off limits here. So any football related questions, drop them down below and we'll be answering them shortly. But that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.